Hey everybody, thanks for joining us on the Extra Point Show this week. Unfortunately, first thing to get into this week is a little bit on the tragic end of the spectrum.
Yeah, definitely on the tragic end.
Yeah, this week the football world and life in general had a pretty huge loss, and that was the passing of um, former Raiders head coach and broadcast personality and all around football enthusiast John Madden. He had passed away on Tuesday, December the 28th, which was just a few days after his All Madden documentary came out on Christmas.
Yeah, he was 85, I believe.
Yeah, he had passed away in his home, and he's survived by his wife Virginia and their two sons. I mean, really, just want to take a moment to talk about the legacy that is John Madden. He's probably going to be known as, to a lot of people, was his time as a head coach with the Raiders from 69
I
to go ahead.
to 78. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I would say with that, it would be more the older generation that remembers things like that. Because when I think of Madden, I always think of his commentary on games, and then obviously the video game, which we'll
True.
talk about later. But
Right.
I know he was the coach of the Raiders for that span. But for me personally, I always think of him as the guy on TV and
Right.
the
Right.
way he calls the games and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that was definitely my because I wasn't even alive in '78.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
yeah, but yeah, going back and you see on like the highlights the games that he was a part of, and those like legendary AFC Championship games with the Steelers. I mean that he was coaching the Raiders in the game where that immaculate reception happened that you always hear about with Franco Harris, where the Steelers pulled off the 13-7 win. Yeah, so Madden had coached the Raiders for 10 years, from '69 to '78, and he had amassed a really impressive record of 103, 32, and 7, which was about a 75% winning percentage, and he was 9-7 in the postseason. Put all that together, between the postseason wins and the regular season wins, he was 112, 39, and 7.
Wow. So he's got to be the greatest coaches of all time with a record like that. I would
Yeah,
imagine.
absolutely, and
Like,
that
yeah,
yeah. And at the time when he was a coach, some of the things that he did accomplish, and we'll kind of talk about some of his accomplishments in each aspect of his life and his career, because basically, you set out to maybe have like one Hall of Fame career, and he had like three Hall of Fame careers, just like one person, so that's pretty impressive. So
yeah.
among his accomplishments were becoming the youngest head coach to ever reach 100 career wins, and he did that in just 10 seasons, which was super impressive. You got to figure that's averaging 10 wins a season. And back when he was
Hmm.
coaching, games were only 14, or the season was only 14 games long, until
Oh wow.
until the '78 season. The '78 season was the only game, or the only season he coached 16 games, because that's when they changed it from 14 to 16. So yeah, so he had less games to work with, and you figure he's winning at least like 10 of those 14 games every year. Um,
Wow. Yeah, that is really impressive.
yeah, yeah. So and he'd done that by the age of 42. So at this point, even modern day here in 2022 now, Madden is still the winningest coach in Raider football history, and he has the second best winning percentage in league history, and he's never had a losing season as a head coach, which I think is the most
So
impressive
second,
thing.
so second best in league history.
Yeah,
You said. Wow.
second best
So
winning percentage in league history.
winning
Yeah,
percentage. So
yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah. And you got to think that at the time when he coached, obviously he wasn't coaching at the time of Belichick, or Pete Carroll, or a lot of like the or Mike Tomlin, a lot of the elite coaches now. But he was coaching in an era with Tom Landry, the Dallas Cowboys coach, Don Shula, the guy that has the record for most wins in NFL history, with down in Miami with Dan Marino, Chuck Noll, who was the longtime Steelers coach, Bud Grant, longtime coach of the Vikings. So those are all notable, old time coaches that, and in that time he was regarded as the best coach in that era, so that was pretty impressive. He after failing a couple times to advance past the Steelers in the AFC Championship, he finally did win a Super Bowl. He did win the Super Bowl, and I believe it was the. Let's see here.
Honestly, don't know that much about his like coaching career and all of that.
Yeah, I want
You
to
know,
say it
I was
was.
just
Oh, go ahead.
I was thinking of I just always think of him as as just the commentator and you hear his
Yeah.
voice, but I didn't realize that what a great coach he was
Yeah.
though. I
No, I
mean,
mean
he was.
he definitely was. I mean there
It's
was a
not that
reason.
surprising given his commentary and how well he really understood the game.
Yeah.
But seeing the numbers like that, it's like,
Yeah.
wow, that really is
Absolutely, yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. So it was a '76 season. I just wanted to make sure we had it right. So in 1976,
Okay.
the Raiders went 13-1 and won their first and only Super Bowl under John Madden. And then he retired after the '78 season, where even though they missed the playoffs, they were still a 9-7 team. So like I said, the guy never had a losing season, which there's so many head coaches out there that wish that that could be the case, but
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and yeah, so. But he retired in January 4th of 1979. He retired, citing an occupational burnout, and he also had an ulcer condition. And at that point, he transitioned into the broadcast booth and joined CBS, color commentator in 1979. And then it was in 2 years after that, in '81, where he got the legendary pairing with Pat Summerall. They're probably the most known broadcasting duo. John Madden, Pat Summerall. Obviously, later in his career, he worked with Al Michaels as well. But yeah, so they had worked together over the course of 20 years and between two networks as they eventually transitioned over to Fox. So they worked together at CBS, they worked together at Fox, and then after the 2002 season, Madden would join ABC's Monday Night Football, and he would start calling the Monday Night Football games from 2002 to 2005 with Al Michaels, and that's when their pairing started. And they called a lot of good games too. I
Yeah,
mean, I can still
that's
remember.
when I start remembering
Yeah,
more is
yeah,
around that time. So 2002, I would have been about 12, 11,
yeah.
around that. So I definitely those Al Michaels and John Madden is what I can remember personally at least.
I will always remember a game that he called where it was Peyton Manning's greatest comeback, where the Colts were down like 35-7 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Peyton, like over the course of a quarter, led him back for like a 38-35 win, and that was a game that John Madden and Al Michaels were calling. So it was. But yeah, I remember that. I remember he called the game that happened like right after Brett Favre's father had passed, and then Brett Favre went out and lit up the Raiders for like 400 yards and like 5 touchdowns. So he
Mhm.
was definitely on the call for some memorable games. I went back and watched some of those calls, and definitely memorable. Also called the catch too, which was when Steve Young found Terrell Owens in the end zone to beat Green Bay in the divisional round. So that was a big one as well. But yeah, so after the 2005 or in 2005, it was announced that starting in 2006, Madden would provide color commentary for NBC's Sunday Night Football, and this also made him the first sportscaster ever to have worked on big all four of the big four U.S. Broadcast networks: Fox, CBS, NBC, and ABC. So that was definitely pretty impressive and another record that he set. Um, he had also at one point had a record of 476 weekend games with a game called, which was super impressive. He called a game for
Wow.
476 straight weeks. So that's pretty insane. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean
Holy crap.
the definite this guy, like, I mean, we talked about it before we started filming, but I mean, I don't know that anybody loved football as much as John Madden. I mean, I love football. You love football. Like a lot of people love football, but I mean, like he lived and breathed
No,
this
no.
game. Like,
He's like, yeah, he's on another level. Like,
yeah,
absolutely. I
yeah,
mean, how good of a coach that he was, how good his commentary was, the mark he's left on the
yeah,
game. I mean, even getting people, like with the video game, people like that know,
absolutely,
everybody, just people know that name, even if you don't even like football, that you
right.
probably know the name Madden
He's,
at least.
he's had a big impact, and you got to think how many people like he brought into football that weren't interested in football that just because of like his like boom pow, whap, doink. You know,
Right?
like
Yeah.
just
It was
yeah.
just, yeah,
Yeah,
super
it's like he's just
entertaining.
he's
Like,
just bringing them in, and then like there was always the Thanksgiving game where they had the turducken.
yeah.
The duck. It's a chicken inside a duck inside a turkey. It's
Yeah,
turducken. Yeah,
that's it.
and then the he's the one that started like that galloping gobbler for the player on Thanksgiving that Fox still does. So they still give out the and all the Thanksgiving games. Now they give legs because of that. So a lot of those traditions have carried on. Um, but yeah, so his last game that he would call, his final call, would be the Super Bowl at the end of the two or on February 1st, 2009. That was between the Cardinals and the Steelers. That the Steelers won. That was his last game, and that was a hell of a last game to call because that was the duel between
Yeah,
Roethlisberger and Kurt
absolutely.
Warner.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
one thing about that is the fact that he was succeeded by Chris Collinsworth, and
yeah,
I don't really quite see who. I don't know who the hell made that decision.
yeah,
Like that was, but yeah, I don't.
yeah. I mean, I don't have anything personal against Collinsworth, but I think
He's
that
not that bad. It's just
yeah,
like,
like
I guess
from
you can't live up to Madden. It's
yeah,
just you can't.
yeah. It's like who else were they gonna get? That's the thing. Because I mean that was back in 2009. So I mean you got to think that a lot of the I mean there was Troy and Joe Buck were calling games, but they've been signed with Fox since 2001. Um,
Has
so
it been
like
that long? Oh my God, no,
yeah,
it hasn't. 2001.
for Troy and Joe Buck. Yeah, I want to say so.
What?
Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna find out right now.
What? That's insane.
Yeah, they're like the longest.
I don't think I realized that it's 2022.
Yeah,
Oh, did
because
we
no.
even say that? Happy New Year! It's 2022.
Oh yeah, Happy
We
New
got to
Year.
say that real
Yeah,
quick. We didn't.
Happy New
It's the
Year.
first.
Yeah.
It's Jan. Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. That's right.
let's see
Gotta get
here.
that in there.
Let's see. Let's see here.
Yeah, I am. I'm very curious because
Uh,
that's crazy. If it's been 21 years that they've been, I don't. That just doesn't sound right. But maybe it is. Huh.
hold on.
I would have guessed it was like 2009 or like some later, but I honestly don't know.
Yeah, right here. Um, 20 years of broadcasting. Yep.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah. I
Yep.
mean, you're usually right, so I'm
Yeah.
not really that surprised. But I just, for me, I didn't realize it had been
Yeah.
that long.
So
That's
no.
that's
So I remember that because what happened was Troy and Joe took over for John because John and Pat Summerall were on Fox, and then when they went when John left in 2001 for Monday Night Football after 2001 when he left Fox for ABC, that's when Fox went from John Madden and Pat Summerall to Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. So they've been calling games together since 2001, 2002.
they both suck. I don't like either of them very much.
I
I
mean,
don't like either of
yeah,
them. Like I mean, yeah, Joe Buck's not that bad, but
Troy.
no, it's mostly Troy. I should be more specific. I like Joe Buck.
Who
He's not
do you
bad, but
think's a
no,
better commentator, Troy Aikman or Tony Romo?
probably Tony Romo.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree.
Yeah,
All right. Oh, so yeah. Anyway, so
both not great, but like Tony
yeah,
Romo's not bad. Actually, there's sometimes where he's really good. Like
yeah.
so it's weird.
Tony Romo's
Aikman is
really good at
usually good.
guessing the play before it happens. He's like, I bet they're gonna go
Yeah, right.
like stretch play to the right, and then he's like, it's exactly that. And it's like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, that's one thing
Yeah,
I do like with him.
yeah. Another thing that we'll just jump into real quick, kind of just jumping off the timeline, but also in 1984, he took the urging of one of his NFL coaching friends, John Robinson, and he created the All Madden team. So All Madden, I'm sure you've heard about that. That's what the documentary was called as well. He also wrote a book called All Madden. Um, so basically, the All Madden team was always something that he put together every year, and basically that was a collection of players that played the game or exemplified the way that the game should have been played in John Madden's eyes. So um, he ended up picking that from 1984 until let's see here. So from '84 through the 2001 season. When he moved to ABC, that's when he stopped doing the All Madden team. Although he would come out with a Hall of Fame All Madden, and then he did like a 10th anniversary, and then like an All Madden Super Bowl team in '96. So he did a few other ones, but basically when they asked him, and this is another good quote from him, and he had a lot of good ones. Quotes when asked what it meant to be All Madden. He said it's a whole range of things. For defensive linemen and linebackers, it's about Jack Youngblood playing on a busted leg, Lawrence Taylor wreaking havoc on a defense, and Reggie White making the other guy wish he put a little more in the collection plate at church. Because he was the minister of defense. That was his nickname. Yeah. Because he was an ordained minister as well. I don't know if you knew that about Reggie White.
Did not know that,
Yeah.
actually.
Yep. And it's about a guy who's got a dirty uniform, mud on his face, and grass in his ear hole. Grass in the ear hole of his helmet. So pretty much sums up. You definitely like that physical football. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the most entertaining to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, some of those calls, man, they were just, especially with some of those collisions. Like when you get like the boom. It's like.
Yeah, and his voice. That's why the next thing we'll talk about is the game, which
Yep.
I'm sure most of us like that game. If you like football, it's kind of hard
Yep.
not to like it. It's irritating at times, but
Yeah.
it began in the late '80s, in 1988, when he lent his name, voice, and creative input to the John Madden football series, later called Madden NFL, published by EA Sports, as we all know, which, like I said, is kind of a love and hate thing because it's kind of shitty sometimes. But
Yeah.
aside from that, though,
very very love hate relationship with the Madden
yeah,
game, but yeah, it is fun.
absolutely.
Played like
It is
all
very
of them.
fun, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've played a lot of them, especially I remember playing the ones on the Super Nintendo. Like that's probably the earliest ones that I played is the Super Nintendo ones. But yeah, entries in the series have consistently been bestsellers to the extent that they have even spawned TV shows featuring competition between players of the game. Despite Madden's retirement as a broadcaster in 2009, he still continued to lend his name and provide creative input to the series. Madden viewed the game as an educational tool, which I would definitely agree with on that because the plays are completely real plays. So playing that, if you don't know much about football, even just playing the game itself, you're going to be able to see positions and see what's what and see what's happening. Not entirely, but it helps a lot when you're able to sit there.
The thing
and
that
look
they
at it
did
like that.
too was Madden actually brought in his Oakland Raider in the early Madden games. Those were actually real NFL playbooks that they used.
Yeah, in the first ones and the late '80s. Yeah. Well, they still do that now, obviously.
But. Yeah. Obviously,
but those his actual plays though, his actual plays probably.
Yeah.
Instead of nowadays, the game has a different team's playbook, but how much is that really the playbook?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know how many OCs are gonna expose. Oh, here you can just have my offensive playbook.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. That just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I sure wouldn't. Yeah, I could see Kyle being very it's like I'm not giving you my playbook.
I'm not doing that. You guys are crazy.
That's not gonna happen. Let that end up in Pete Carroll's hands? Yeah, no thanks. No thanks. But yeah, so this was something that I looked up earlier too. Like you had mentioned, he said it was a good way for people to learn the game and participate in the game at a pretty sophisticated level. So yeah, with that being said, he wanted to design it originally. He thought it could be beneficial, to run plays against a computer and see how it would work for a coaching tool, so that teams wouldn't have to scrimmage. So I thought that was brilliant. That's the first, now when you hear all these teams that are doing all this new age stuff to kind of be more analytical and things like that. It was really the first case of that.
Yeah, he's definitely, especially in the late '80s, that computers were nothing at that point. So
and he
you're gonna run simulators on a computer in 1989, bro.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to try that. But
yeah, and he knew nothing about computers, so that's why the relationship with Trip Hawkins, EA's founder in '84 was so crucial because Hawkins wanted to really make a football game, and he had tried to make a previous one in his career, and it was terrible. It was called Statomatic or something. It was terrible. Yeah. So he knew nothing about football. So he wanted to get somebody that really had the insight, and Madden ended up being his second or third choice. I guess he wanted Joe Montana at one point, but Montana
really.
Yeah. So that would have been interesting. It could have been Montana. Could have been the game instead of Madden.
Oh my God.
I love Joe, but I think that they made the right choice getting Madden. Because what are they
Yeah,
going to do?
I agree.
Put Joe Montana's voice on the game? Joe Montana's calling all the games. I don't see that. But
I mean, he probably could. He sounds like I've heard some
yeah, no,
videos of him narrating. Like
yeah, no. Joe's
I
super.
think,
He's a super intelligent guy. I'm not saying that. It's just like he's not a
but
commentator.
He's not
He's not a
Madden though. Yeah,
commentator. Yeah.
yeah.
Like Joe will do an interview every now and then, but he's like Steve Young is a commentator. He does like the NFL, like, but Joe just shows up for a random interview here and there, and he's. But yeah, another thing too was when they were pitching this whole game, I guess they were trying to design it as like 7-on-7 football, and Madden like instantly shut that down. And we got a quote from him, another quote that's if it's not 11 on 11, it's not real football. That was a deal breaker. If it was going to be me and going to be pro football, it had to have 22 guys on the screen. If we couldn't have that, we couldn't have a game. And I really respect that because it's Madden's commitment to being as lifelike as possible. And obviously it's a video game, but a lot of times those animations when you go to like make a catch or a tackle, those are like the exact animations that a player would make, getting hit. So they really put a lot into that game. It's insane.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially nowadays with the way the game is now. With it's I mean, there's glitches obviously. We've all had the most ridiculous picks happen and
Yeah.
just shit that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But for the large part, I mean, you can't make that perfect, but for the large part, it's usually decent. It's
Yeah, it's definitely
8 times out of 10, it's
yeah.
pretty solid. Like yeah,
It's the best game out there as far as that goes. So I
yeah,
mean,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, they might bring I think they are bringing the NCAA football game back, which was pretty fun. But we'll talk about that another time. This time's about the coach. But yeah, definitely just want to take a moment to offer our condolences to the Madden family. Obviously, his wife and his kids and everybody that is affected by that because he was obviously legend and a great guy. So definitely rest easy, coach.
Yeah, you'll definitely be missed.